Gotta love the music. Welcome in, everybody. My name is Bryson Creighton. I am our Vice President of Technology Consulting, and you are listening in and or watching Ask T3 from Insights to Action. And I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Mr. Derek Taylor. Derek, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing really well, Bryson. Thank you. So excited to dive into this.
Absolutely. We are diving into, and we're right off the coattails. Last month, we hosted an AI workshop down in Austin. We're right off the coattails of that workshop and had a number of brokerage leaders, teams, and other industry personnel that really came to collaborate and dive into how AI is not only impacting our industry, but what are the things that they should be focusing on and how to implement it into the brokerage. Derek, you led that charge for us. Can you give us some insights and some takeaways, generally speaking, from that workshop?
It was really good. So we had Steve Brown that kicked it off. He spoke to us kind of about where AI is headed and the importance of this. And I think everyone that was there got that. So it wasn't the here's what AI is. It was a really much deeper conversation. And one thing that was really interesting was, in a good way, I think everyone got a little bit excited and maybe a little bit scared, about getting things moving. So
yeah,
that part was really well received. And then we dove into some real practical applications and different ways to find, a business use case and then find the right tool to put in front of it. Really good exercise that Steve they put us through for that piece of it. And I think that brokers got a good idea on things that they could do or what they already wanted to do. So it was kind of fun to hear them all work together and talk about some of the same problems that, there may be someone at the table with a small brokerage in Minnesota and another one with a bigger brokerage in California, and they have the same problems a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. The conversation around AI, obviously, just from a global perspective, is the focus of every single day. It seems like every moment there's something new, and I think one of the things we want to do for our listeners and for our viewers is we do want to set the proper expectation for what to expect out of today's conversation. We want to drill down to not only the impact on our industry specifically, but we also want to make sure that we're not diving into the world of coding and data science. We're looking to keep this at a practical leadership level to entice and get your mind thinking about the practical applications of AI, whether it's in your brokerage, whether it's within your team, or whichever environment you're operating in and where your focus is. So that is our goal for today, is to really keep it at that level. Derek, can you kind of tease our topics for today as we dive into our conversation?
Yeah, we wanted to start with 3 things that brokers can do to implement AI now. And we're taking, just 3 of the ideas that we put together at the workshop to help kind of get people stuck. I know that we see a lot of brokers now that are and team leaders stuck in this analysis paralysis piece. Like, what do I do first? And how do I make sure I'm doing the right thing? So we've got some easy ways to help you kind of get unstuck.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Derek, I think this kind of starts with, and I know you've done some significant work around this, but looking at what are the activities that an agent is responsible for on a daily basis. And you did some work on, the 179 activities that NAR has deemed that are necessary for an agent to do on a daily basis. And we kind of dwell through that in terms of like, what can AI take off the plate? What can AI enhance? And then obviously this term that has been thrown around in many different ways of agentic AI. And, what we kind of determined is there's roughly, 28 to 35% of the agent workflow that needs to be owned by a human. It needs to be owned by the agent. And it is those are the differentiating components that separate an agent in the marketplace. That other, let's call it 65 percent or so, 70%, somewhere in that range. Those components can either be elevated and or taken on 100% by AI. Derek, give me kind of your perspective on that. I mean, from the marketplace, like, do we think that's a scary component? Do we think that's something that can truly elevate agents to do what they do better? Where do you see those components kind of falling?
I think that this is one of those things that is going to happen. It's the best way to say is like, this is happening. We will see AI start to automate things that you as an agent do on a daily basis. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. They're just going to be automating them on behalf of you. So you'll get a bunch more time back in your day, and you'll be able to focus on the aspects of the transaction and relationship that require you to be fully present. So I think we found 102 that AI and or automation. So there's a difference, right, between automation and artificial intelligence. And you can automate things that it seems like it's artificial intelligence doing, but it's really just rules that are telling it what to do.
Right.
But then you could add AI, which is making decisions for you or adding context to help you make decisions. And so of those tasks that the NAR had focused on, 102 of the tasks can be completely automated with today's technology. 77 of them would be enhanced by AI. And then, just kind of a future forward-facing thing that we believe, or at least I believe, that another 20 of those tasks will be taken over by AI agents as they get better over time.
Yeah, and I think this conversation around automation versus AI versus agentic AI, there are some nuances and there's some confusion around that, right? I mean, you can automate a report being delivered to your email. That's not technically AI. Could you have AI handle that task? Sure. But the reality is that's a simple automation and or potentially a workflow. And then you have, to your point, agentic AI that is making decisions along the way, making determinations, maybe disseminating data and delivering a particular type of report based on what the data says, or writing a particular type of verbiage based on the information that's inputted, or deciding if and when something should be posted here or there, at what time, and so on and so forth. So you're really, the world of agentic AI is as close as you can get to a employee or a human doing the work. It's just being done by the computer. And so we want to make sure that we delineate those components, because we understand that there's a lot of confusion around that. I also think one of the pieces, and we're diving into these three components of what to do now or what you can do now to simplify the overall conversation of AI. But the other piece of this is, don't feel like you have to do everything. There's an argument to be made that you may or may not be doing enough right now if you're just even dipping your toe into the AI environment. But you don't want to try to do everything. The things that you see out there from that aren't industry specific, the likelihood that you need to go down that path is probably slim. It just depends what your business goals and aspirations are. So don't feel overwhelmed, and also don't feel like you're behind the times. We're going to empower you today with 3 easy things. I say easy, they do require work, but these are easy steps into AI for your business. And so the three pieces, or the 3 actions that we're going to walk you through today. The first is going to be modernize one workflow. Focus in one single challenge that you have in the business that you believe can be either assisted and or taken on by AI. And the second will be building some light AI governance. You have to identify how are you going to not only control the data, But what data do you want to allow to be ingested by AI? To what degree do you want your staff and or agents to work with AI, and how do you want that to be handled? And then lastly, launch a simple pilot, to help the staff. Once we go to the agent level, you start to get into an environment where maybe it's no longer as controlled as you want it to be, and so you can deploy this at the staff level to be able to not only test but also understand what is the impact, and it will also give you some indicators on how far you want to go into AI. So, Derek, let's start with the first one in modernizing a single workflow. Take us through this process from kind of start to finish, and where can brokerage leaders start down this path?
I think this is one of the easiest ones to make an immediate impact on your operations, and that's usually where most people start with AI implementation, is to help improve internal efficiencies. So, and one of the reasons why is it's so easy to picture how it's supposed to work for you. So when we say modernize one workflow, go into your operations, things that your staff does, and find something that they do that's really relatively repetitive. They do it almost the same way every single time. And find a way to modernize that workflow. That modernization can use AI in it, but it doesn't necessarily have to. But you'll know more when you really map that process out into kind of what's the first thing that kicks off the process, and then what's the ultimate goal of the process, and then map it from the very beginning to the very end. I think it's easier to map what's happening today, so you know what's happening today, because it's a lot of times you may have not realized how fragmented that process has gotten over time.
Right.
So I love the idea of looking at that again and fresh in the ways you may not have looked at it for a while. And then from there, take that and improve it, make it look like, what would, in a perfect world, what would this look like? Who would touch what, and who wouldn't have to do anything? And once you're there, and once you've found that ultimate workflow, then you can start working on different tools you can use for automation, whether it's tapping into some automation partners like API Nation, or you go to Zapier or Make or some of those other tools to kind of help you with the automation pieces. There's really no low code ways to do that.
Right.
And even some of them, we started to see inside of ChatGPT, they have agent modes, and inside of other AI tools, they have agent modes that you may be able to leverage for those kinds of things as well. But just getting it down on paper will really help you determine what the next thing is to automate. When do you think the right time to bring AI would be into that versus just straight up automation?
Yeah, I think this is where going through the process and identifying the tasks that are necessary are going to be the indicators on what should or what could be amplified or owned by AI versus an automation, right? Again, kind of back to the original example of automating, right? You can schedule a report to be delivered to your email, or scheduling an email to be sent. Those are, your general form of automation. But when we get to the point of AI actually doing the work, we have to understand the input, as you mentioned. What is the input, and what are all the things that need to happen? And what I would recommend brokerage leaders to do is, whoever owns that task, if there's a team of individuals that own that task, let's say we'll just use the number 3. Let's say there's 3 individuals that own a particular task. Have each one of them document their process for that particular task, because what you may find is they all do it a little bit different. And you also may find that there's components that one person may skip, or one person spends more time doing versus somebody else. You may also find the gaps where things aren't being done, And that's potentially diminishing what that end result actually is. And once you analyze that process, that step-by-step process, and see where are the things that can be elevated and or offloaded, now you can have a conversation with that team and or team member and identify, well, why are we skipping this? Why is this taking more time? Or why is this taking less time? Or this person takes less time, or this person takes more time? So you can identify, is this a skill gap component? Or is this just a process that is, let's just say, a little maybe mundane? It's repetitive enough to where one person may spend more time there or another person may not. And now you can then start to determine, okay, this is a closed loop process. Again, we're not talking agentic AI. There's not a whole lot of decision that needs to be made along this timeline. And now we can build this in an AI platform from start to finish to be able to assist this individual in their job. And now they become more efficient and effective. So Derek, to your question directly, the determination on whether or not this should be continued to be done by 100% by an individual, whether or not there should be components of it that are potentially automated, and or whether or not this gets passed completely to AI and is built as a singular workflow, I think it comes back to what are the decisions, if any, that need to be made along the timeline of tasks. If there are no decisions that need to be made along the timeline, then that is a clear indicator that an individual does not necessarily need to own this task on a daily basis. And we could depend on AI to do that without having to make decisions that change the outcome.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that there's a kind of 3 steps to it. The first layer is, let's get it out on paper and see what it looks like. The second step is, what can we find an automated trigger for and have some sort of automation software automate that piece for me. And then the next layer would be artificial intelligence. When do I need to bring AI into that decision-making process? And I think there's about 5 or 6 use cases there. Like, number one, when the rules that you have to determine what happens inside that automation stops working, or the if-then logic is just not strong enough and it doesn't scale. So then you'll have to bring AI in to kind of help with that process. Number 2 would be when human judgment is just slowing the process down. Yep. You may find if one of the processes that you have is, I'm going to look at all of the listing photographs and make sure that they're compliant and there's not like a for sale sign in the yard if it's not supposed to be there. Then you could, that's going to take a while for a person to do, but you could leverage an AI model to look at pictures and look for signs or something like that. Then number 3 would be when more personalization or prediction is required. So if I want to determine in my process, like who would most likely probably not, like if I'm dealing with an agent that I feel like is at risk of leaving in some of my conversations, then I would want to know that. And so there could be some prediction there that could help you determine whether or not that agent's happy in an automation. Or you could have more personalization, just making sure that it gets, addressed, you address them by name and everything, and that you know everything about them professionally. So you're able to deliver back content to them as part of an automation process that's more personalized to them. And then the last one is just whenever a feedback loop exists. Sometimes you can use AI for the feedback, and sometimes you need to throw it back to a human, but you can use AI to help with that process too.
Absolutely.
Really long-winded answer to a simple process question that we.
Yeah. Well, and I think what we've, you and I have talked about this for quite some time, almost daily now, but I think what you as a brokerage leader should know is that, again, it looks easy on paper. And if you're consuming AI content on YouTube or whatever may have you, it sounds easy. But when you actually get down to the things that need to happen for you to change a process and pass it off to AI, there is a lot of effort that needs to go into that. And Derek, I think that's actually a really good segue into what's necessary for building a lightweight AI governance model in the brokerage, because we can build as many of these processes as we want. We can pass as much of this off to AI as we want. But if we don't have a governance model around how to maintain and control the data, then we're putting ourselves in a really bad place. And so let's talk about building that a lightweight AI governance and avoiding avoiding potential chaos down the line.
Yeah. I mean, the absolute lightest weight possible governance would be really just to put one person in charge of it, and then kind of write out a charter. Kind of, what do you feel is acceptable use of AI inside of your company, and what's not acceptable use of AI, and make sure that that's known to everyone on the staff, and you've got one person in charge. You may want to put like a AI review checklist as well. Letting you know, is this fair? Does it get involved in any privacy issues? Is it offering brand consistency? That kind of thing. And then just keep looking at it, every quarter or so. That's a really lightweight weight to stand up if you're just really getting started. But if you want to get into a governance policy that scales, it's much easier if you start kind of breaking out 3 different committees, I would say. But I think that this doesn't work at all without CEO buy-in.
Right.
They have to fund this, so that's the money has to be there, and they have to really allow mistakes to be made.
Yes.
And I think that's what everyone's going to have, some mistakes that are made in this whole process, because we're all just learning and the models are changing every 10 minutes. Every time we turn around, there's something new. So it's almost impossible to keep up with all of it. But just starting with one thing means that you can get that going. And then getting that governance in place so that, let's say you have an executive steering committee that you've elected, and that is the one that determines the business use cases that we're going to be directing our AI assets towards, right? Then you'll have what I was calling an AI center of excellence. So it's another group of people in your office, and their job is really more implementation. So now they've given directive from the executive committee. Now they're going to actually go out there and look for partner vendors, look for ways that they can maybe do some of it themselves, and find different ways to get that specific business case met. And then you'll have a review committee that reviews everything. So you may have a workflow that starts with, hey, here's a problem that we want to solve. The executive steering committee identifies the problem. They send that problem to the review committee and say, this is where we want to head. Do you see any risk with that? They say no, then great. It goes back to executive, who then sends it to the AI Center of Excellence, and then they get the work done. When they think they're ready to launch a pilot, then they will get with the committee that reviews, again, everything that is looking for safety issues. And once they greenlight the pilot, then you're ready to go. That would be for a larger, several thousand agent brokerage, because there's a lot more to think about.
Right.
And a lot more people that would that affect. So I think it's important to have that 3-step process so that everyone's making, the right decisions, and you're catching bad decisions faster.
Right. And I think one of the pieces we have to press on when we talk about governance is we all have to come to terms with you most likely have, it would surprise me if not, you have a staff member that's leveraging AI. You have agents that are leveraging AI in your brokerage, and not having a view or any type of, let's call it, control, governance per se, around what information is being plugged into the systems is it's an area of caution. It is an area of caution. As a brokerage, you have a ton of data, personal data, obviously property data, all of the things of the like. And this information being plugged into public platforms is not ideal. And so having governance around that, having control around that, that enables use cases, but also discourages others. Because at the end of the day, from a legal perspective, you as the brokerage own everything that's happening under your roof. And so it's important to put these things in place to enable the usage and disable or discourage specific types of usage as well. Derek, I know we've uncovered a few real world stories around how brokerages have utilized AI and put in place a governance process, if you will, or a model. Can you share that with us?
Well, I think almost all of the larger brokerages that we see have already taken this step, right? Because they see the specific risks that are involved for that. But then when we had people come to the event, we provided them with kind of a straw man governance policy that they could go back and institute. And we got some great feedback on that. Several of the brokers that we were talking to were in the middle of doing that and launching it, and had questions post summit. And it was nice to hear that they were actually doing it. And it was engaging for their agents as they chose who was going to be on the AI Center of Excellence. They ought to allow their agents to have some decision making into how things get implemented, and it kind of brought their entire team together around efficiencies and the excitement around AI. It was really good for morale.
Awesome, I love it. Let's move into our the third thing brokerage leaders can do today to implement AI, and this is launching a simple internal pilot. Again, we talked about instituting this with your staff, and really kind of opening the eyes around what AI can do for the brokerage. Yes, we see it out there. We see all the platforms, whether it be Nano Banana or Sora, and generative AI and all of these things, and all those things are great. But what those things are not are specifically tailored to our industry and aiding what happens in the brokerage and or in the daily use case of an agent within our industry. And so launching a simple pilot allows you to open the eyes on what the impact is for your particular brokerage and the use cases that you have and you've enabled around your governance model to allow AI to be utilized for. So, Derek, let's talk about launching this simple pilot, and what are some of the kind of easy steps into doing this, and some of the tools that we may identify for them to use.
So I think the first issue obviously is what problem are we trying to solve, and there will be whatever the problem is that you're trying to solve. There's two ways to solve it. One of them would be through tools that you kind of find on your own that are maybe non-industry specific, or you can look for an existing vendor that is already kind of solved that problem for real estate brokerages. Right. We'll see a lot of the ones who actually took the time to solve the problem for brokerages, and you see that it really is solving the problem for you. It's probably a lot more difficult to get there on your own than it is to go with that vendor. So get a couple of other vendors that maybe do the same thing and run through an RFI with them on how do we get information about your product so we can make a better decision on who we want to institute. But that there are some tools you may want to look around for, like simple things. So for example, let's say you have a new initiative around educating agents, and you had a lot of material kind of around that initiative. Why not just create a Google Drive with that material inside of it and connect Google's Notebook LM to that, so that the staff can ask questions about the new initiative and really get, that's a simple use case of an existing tool that's already ready to use. If you wanted to take that same method and have it start solving customer service problems, then that's probably not going to happen with Notebook LM. You'll need to go with something that's more powerful and specific that is probably pre-built. But it's easy to see that. It's easy to see that it's a cool solution, and if I took it 7 steps further, it would do this for me. But those 7 steps are so much harder than you think they are that sometimes it's better just to find that right person. Or, if you can get there on your own and you have the size and scale and talent to help you get there, then, give it a shot. It's definitely nice to have it, but I don't know if there's necessarily IP in that side of it these days. I think that doesn't necessarily make you more valuable due to your tech. It just makes another piece of software that you have to maintain outside of the ones that your vendors are maintaining for you.
Right. And we use Notebook LM all the time in our environment, and it's a tool that is I like to look at it as an easy step in the direction of leveraging AI in a closed environment, or what's generally referred to in the AI world as a RAG. But looking at those components and leveraging a platform like Notebook LM allows you as a brokerage leader to see what is the experience in an environment that's closed down to our data and our documentation. That's not necessarily reaching out to the overall internet as a Gemini or Chat GPT will in their general public form. So it allows you to close it down, and this is a good way, as Derek mentioned, a good way to open the eyes and bring, I'll say specifically, your staff into an environment that allows them to identify where can time be saved, and what are some levers that they can pull within your guys' specific documentation that AI can help deliver. That they don't have to go find and search and spend whether it be 5 or 10 minutes, or even more, or ask a coworker. All of these things can start to be solved with a tool to some degree, like a Notebook LM. It's not perfect. Still a public platform. It's got some drawbacks, but it's a great way to implement a nice kind of light and simple pilot. Derek, on this last piece, anything else to add here from a launch perspective that we believe our brokerage leaders need to hear?
Well, I think pre-launch, you've already reviewed any potential risks that you feel could be there, including bias in the model, et cetera. But post-launch, you need to have tools to measure for those things. So you want to be going in there and looking for bias. You want to look for hallucinations. You want to look for problems in the system on a pretty regular basis. And then I would set a specific time period, something like 30 days. I'd say 15 days for a first review, 30 days for a second review, and then 60 to 90 for full to final review of whether or not this is something you want to continue doing or not. And if you can get the vendors that you're working with to offer you, a pilot timeline, I think that's really useful before you make a huge decision. And you also might find that some of these tools that your solutions that we're finding are not necessarily as expensive as you thought they would be.
Right. Well, and I think the expense piece is important, right? Even with the cost element, the whole purpose behind AI, at least the way that I see it, is to enhance the existing business processes. Yes, there are components that can be completely offloaded and can be a time saver, but when we start to balance those things out, whether it be saving time, creating efficiencies, and or elevating what is being done, now that cost element starts to have a little bit more of an ROI, right? And so even when the cost is maybe, let's say, not ideal, we have to look at what is the impact and how does it enable and aid the staff, the agents, the overall business purpose, and in the end, really drive the business goals. Because if the AI that you plan to implement is not tied to a business goal and an outcome, then it shouldn't be considered. We have to make sure that it is aiding the business in its future growth. And again, that can be costs, that can be efficiencies, that can be elevation. All of those components matter.
I like to say it's three things. It's going to help me make more money. It's going to help me save money, or it's going to help me or it's going to give me different ways to make money. Right?
Yes.
If it doesn't do one of those three things, then it's basically just AI slop, and it doesn't need to be in your arsenal.
Absolutely. The key here with the launch effort, and really across all three of what we've covered with you today, or helped you identify a way to step into AI, is start with where your team is already living. If you're a Google shop and your team is in Google Drive, dive into Gemini, dive into Notebook LM. If you're a Microsoft shop, dive into Copilot, right? Start where your data exists today, so you don't have to move it. You don't have to worry about how it's formatted. Just live in the tools that you have access to right now, and that will make this a lot easier for you to start to implement into the brokerage. The key here, though, is you don't need to just adopt AI. Like, it's not just, hey, here's a fad, let's jump on this train and all the things of the like. You actually have the opportunity to lead with AI and drive your brokerage into the future. Right now, we're just at the cusp. It may not feel like it because it's moving so fast. It's just what, Derek, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're in 2025. So it's been 2.5 years, I want to say, maybe 3 years since OpenAI came out as a public platform. And so this train has been moving very, very fast. But we're just at the cusp of what AI can do. And so you're not behind the 8 ball, but you do have the opportunity to lead this charge for your brokerage and, quite frankly, for your marketplace.
Yeah, I think it's, if you look at it from a 25,000 foot view, people don't understand logarithmic change in a way that they should. So what we're seeing is we're seeing change happen faster than it's ever happened in the history of change. So that, the way changes happen is changing. And we as a species really cannot understand that we understand linear change, how if one thing happens and it gets better 2 times or whatever, but when things start doubling and tripling over, from 1 month to the next, the AI agent is twice as powerful as it was previously, right? So we just had one that ran 60 hours and completely rewrote Slack, and did it all by itself without having to stop or have anyone intervene with it.
Right.
It's going to, in the next 2 or 3 months, it's going to be much longer than that. So all I'm saying is you think you might see how fast it's coming, but you don't. You don't, because you can't.
Right.
So start looking at, put it down on a piece of paper and look at the graph, and then see where you need to be. And you'll want to be moving faster than you are now. Absolutely.
Derek, great conversation today. For our listeners and for our viewers, listen, here at T360, we're here as industry advocates for you guys. We're here to help enable change within your environment, help you make these decisions, help you identify what should or should I not be paying attention to explicitly as it pertains to AI. And so we encourage you guys to reach out to us if you would like help. Schedule a 30-minute call with us. You'll see in the ticker at the bottom here at t360.com/connect. Schedule some time with us to talk about how you're looking at AI and what impact you believe it might have on your environment. And we may be able to help you along that path. In addition to that, also, look, we just released our annual publication in the T3 Trends. The 25 trends are out. the 26 trends are out and available. Go to t3trends.com. You can order your printed copy, and this will kind of serve as not only as seeing the trends that we see in the industry, but we also have a segment there that is specifically speaking to AI and its impact on the industry. So take the opportunity to engage with us. Take the opportunity to order your trends report. And at the end of the day, listen, AI is not going to replace you or your agents. But the reality is AI will replace, and I should say AI and brokers that embrace AI and agents that embrace AI will outperform those that don't. So take the action today and engage with us, and we'll help you along the way. We appreciate you guys joining us for today's T3 from insights to action. Hope you walked away with something great that you can implement into your brokerage, and we'll all see you in the next episode.